Hey friends, I'm Bryn,
And I'm Logan.
and this is Friends Who Crime.
Woo!
Hooray!
Do Friends Who Crime.
Welcome to the 10th episode of Friends Who Crime. Double digits, baby!
What I'm talking about.
And we hit 300 downloads this week, which is pretty cool.
That is very impressive. I'm very proud of you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Everybody
Thank
download it
you,
right now
Bryn.
if you're listening.
Yes.
Mhm.
Hit those auto downloads. And also make sure you follow us on Instagram at Friends Who Crime. I post like pictures to go along with each case, and you can stay updated on the pod. It really helps the show to turn on auto downloads as well. That's how we get our statistics. And we have stickers now.
Ooh, stickers.
Yes, they're cute little cutouts of our little coffee cup logo. If you want one, just message Friends Who Crime on Instagram and I'll make sure you get one. Doesn't matter if you're near Austin or not, I will mail them to you. I already put some in an envelope for Logan here.
Perfect. I was gonna say, do I need to message on Instagram, or can I just like message you right now?
I already have some in an envelope for you.
Oh, too good. Too good.
So, this is my brother, Logan. Hello.
Hello, everybody.
Tell us who you are, what you're all about.
Well, my name is Logan. I live in New Mexico currently. I'm going to school and I'm getting married in May. I like to go rock climbing and I like to play soccer, and I've known Bryn for my whole life. Uh, even though she said that she wished she had a sister whenever I came home, I still wanted to, be her brother, I guess. So here we
You
are.
didn't
She's
really
pretty
have a
awesome.
choice.
Yeah, I didn't have a choice, but
And didn't you get so lucky?
I did.
How is true crime involved in your life?
I mean, if Criminal Minds counts, it's very involved. Okay. I've watched that as I was growing up in CSI, all those shows, NCIS. I don't know if those are very true crime. I know that Criminal Minds is like based off of, real crimes, but, dramatized. So,
Yeah, definitely
yeah.
mostly fictional, but Criminal Minds is definitely based on a lot of true cases. When I was
Yeah.
watching it, I was like, oh, I know what case that is. I know what case that is. So
Oh,
you get some credit for that for sure.
okay, that's fair. And then I live here, so there's lots of true crime,
In Las Cruces.
in Las Cruces. Yeah, especially recently. We've made a lot of headlines.
Wait, really?
Yeah. Did you not hear about Young Park?
No.
There was like a shooting at Young Park a few weeks ago, and it made like national news because
Oh.
apparently it's gang violence. That's what our chief of police came out and said. There was an unsanctioned car meet, what I don't know what car meet is sanctioned. I'm going to be honest with you. What city is like, yeah, absolutely, go rev engines in this random parking lot. That's cool. But yeah, they were like showing off the cars with guns, and then they I don't know, they started shooting. So
Oh
yeah, that
my
was a big
gosh.
deal. Yeah.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, it was. I mean, luckily it's nowhere near where I live, but it's like
Yeah.
still in Las Cruces.
Yeah.
So yeah, chief of police said he's gonna crack down. So we'll have to
Well,
see.
that's probably good.
Yeah,
Hopefully he
yeah,
keeps that promise.
yeah. I hope so. He's new. So.
Well, for my Brinterruption today,
Ooh.
I'm going to talk about how my laundry got stolen.
Mm.
So, for those of you that don't know, I do not have a washer dryer in my apartment, so I use a laundry service where every couple weeks I leave my giant bag of laundry or 2 giant bags of laundry depending on the week, and I leave them on my front porch. They come pick them up, and then 24 hours later they bring them back. They're all folded, organized, clean, like the best thing I have ever done. I hate laundry, so it just makes it really nice and convenient. But last week, I left my bags of laundry out on the porch, and when the guy got there to pick them up, he knocked on my door and he was like, "Hey, do you have any laundry that you want us to take?" And I was like, "What do you mean? It was right out here." And he said, "No, it was not." Um,
No.
and so we like looked around for it and we went to the apartment office to see if maybe they had it. I looked in all the dumpsters thinking maybe someone thought it was trash. I even drove around a little bit to see if I could find it in the area, and it's just nowhere to be found. So I lost probably $400 worth of clothes, towels, sheets, blankets. And the thing I am most upset about is I have a blanket that I got as a gift with my cat Boof, his face all over it. And I wanted to wash it since I hadn't washed it in a while, so I threw it in the bag and they took it.
That's messed up.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just figure, like, I'm just trying to think, like, someone else obviously needed those things more than I did. And they were
I mean,
dirty clothes and sheets and things, so like they must have really wanted them. And I've been able to go clothes shopping this week and like refresh my wardrobe and get some more emo girl clothes. So that's been fun. So I'm trying to look at the bright side. But yeah, definitely a bummer.
yeah, that is. I'm sorry to hear that. I mean, I already
Yeah,
knew it,
thanks.
but I didn't know everything. I didn't realize the Boof blanket was like Boof's face on a blanket. I thought
Yeah.
it was like the blanket that Boof laid on, you know? And I was like, yeah, if somebody took Callie's little blanket, I'd be ready to fight, not gonna lie.
Yeah.
So yeah,
It
that's
It
horrible.
was also the blanket that he liked to lay on, but it had his face all over it. And
So
like
it was
one
even
of the
better.
pictures was him like being cute, and then the other picture was him mid yawn, so his mouth is like wide open. And it was just like one of my favorite gifts I've ever gotten. And now I'm gonna try and get it remade
Yeah,
because
you should.
I
You should.
loved it so much.
Yeah.
And now someone else is out there using a blanket with my cat's stupid face on it.
And they probably think it's just like some mass produced blanket, you know, that you bought at like Five and Below. And it's like, no.
Maybe. Uh,
No, that's meaningful.
right. Like, just bring me back the blanket. You can keep
Yeah,
everything
you
else.
can have everything else. No questions asked. Well, I mean, maybe a few questions, like why are you stealing dirty clothes? But
Right.
you know,
Well, anyway, let's go ahead and get into this case. This is a particularly rough one. It's gruesome and it's controversial. It is the tale of Elizabeth Báthory.
Elizabeth Báthory.
Yes.
Okay,
She was also known as the Blood Countess,
I like
which is,
kind of where this is going. I mean, not in like a good way, but this is intriguing.
yes. I'm really it's weird to say that I'm excited about it, but I am excited to tell this story. Like it's one of those that I had never heard of, and then when I came across it, I was like, I have to do that.
Mm-hmm.
She is one of the most infamous female serial killers in history. As a matter of fact, she holds the Guinness World Record for most prolific female murderer,
Oh, that's quite the record.
which is impressive because this takes place in the 16th century.
Wow.
This case is exciting simply because female serial killers are extremely uncommon. And not only that, it's an old murder case and deals with royalty.
Oh, this is
There's a lot of juicy
crazy.
bits in here. However, this is also a very horrendous story, and there's a lot of talk of torture and death in various ways, so just a heads up.
Okay. Okay.
The late 1500s in Hungary were a time of turmoil. The country was chaotically divided into three parts due to an ongoing war. There was Royal Hungary, controlled by Austria, Ottoman Hungary, which was ruled by the Ottoman Turks, and the Principality of Transylvania, which was mostly independent but was under Ottoman influence and mainly ruled by the Hungarian nobles. These nobles were constantly navigating through all the powers that be to maintain their own power and influence in the country. There was a massive divide between the nobility and the peasants. The elite lived in these huge castles on big plots of land. They controlled everything that went on around them. Many peasants were serfs, which means they were tied to the land owned by the noble families. They had very few rights and were often punished by those that they served. Witchcraft and curses were a prominent fear during this time, which made it very easy to accuse a woman of being a witch, and people would believe it. Many of the women who were accused were powerful women who didn't fit into their societal roles. Women were supposed to marry into wealth, have children, and oversee their home, all while maintaining appearances and upholding their family's reputation. If there was a woman who fell outside of this box, if she was independent, if she was wealthy without a husband, displayed any kind of power on her own, she was met with suspicion.
God forbid, you know.
Right? Also, during this time, the capture and torture of prisoners or enemies was very common. Many times, two rival elite families would try to bring each other down, whether that was through raids or hostages, falsely accusing their family of something. It's very Game of Thrones.
Okay.
That vibe.
I like the scene.
And this brings us to Elizabeth Báthory.
Oh, Elizabeth.
Elizabeth was born on August 7th, 1560, into an incredibly wealthy and powerful family within this system. Her family had ties to both Hungary and Transylvania. Her uncle, Stephen Báthory, was the King of Poland and Grand Duke of Lithuania. Growing up, Elizabeth was given the very best education, showered with gifts, but she also had pretty severe health problems. She had seizures, migraines, and violent mood swings. She also witnessed many horrific incidents. When one family servant was caught stealing, she saw, and this is really horrific, she saw the man being sewn into the body of a horse.
Oh. Yeah, that would mess a kid up.
You'd think. She also witnessed a lot of servants being brutally beaten for disobedience, and at the age of 6, she saw a public execution.
Oh. That's 6?
At the age of 6.
Different times, I guess. You know, they were just built different. I
Most
don't know.
people would have been extremely disturbed by this, but Elizabeth was not. On the contrary, she seemed to be fascinated by it. When she was 10 years old, she got engaged to 15-year-old
Wow.
Ferenc Nadashti. So during this time, getting engaged and married at a younger age was very standard.
Okay.
But yeah, 10 years old, and she's engaged to be married. 4 years later, they were married, but Elizabeth wasn't one to follow the rules.
Of course not.
Legend has it that she had an affair with a peasant boy and got pregnant. Oops.
That would be an issue. What was it? Franz?
Yeah, Ferenc.
Yeah.
When he found out about the affair, he castrated the peasant boy and threw him into a hungry pack of dogs.
That's one way to take care of that, I guess.
Yup. Very yikes.
Yeah. Wow.
Regardless of if this is true or not, the two were definitely a power couple. They had their own castle or two. Ferenc went off to war, while Elizabeth handled the entire estate. During this period of time, they became even more extremely wealthy, and Elizabeth used some of that wealth to house desperate peasants who needed a place to stay and food to eat.
Very kind.
Ferenc ended up being a celebrated war hero, and came to be known as the Black Knight of Hungary. He took pleasure in brutally torturing Ottoman prisoners.
Ah, what a thing to be known for.
Seems
You
like a
know?
fun guy.
Yeah, he does. I should invite him to the next party.
Sit down and have a beer with him.
You know, what was your favorite torture method? You know?
You'll find out, don't you worry.
Oh boy.
Although Ferenz and Elizabeth didn't spend a ton of time together in the beginning of their marriage, they did have the chance to bond over one similar interest: violence.
Ah,
Ferenz taught Elizabeth various methods of torture by demonstrating them on some of their young servants. These are really gross and evil. They rolled up pieces of paper soaked in oil, put them between the servant girl's toes, and lit them on fire.
Oh wow.
And Ferenz gave Elizabeth a glove with metal claws on the fingers to scratch up any servants that were being disobedient.
That
Yeah.
that's straight out of Game of Thrones, yeah.
Straight up Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
This whole story is very, very Game of Thrones. In 1601, a woman named Anna Darvulia was one of two high-ranking servants at the Nadashti estate. Anna served as a governess to the children, which is like a nanny. We've mentioned that before
Yeah.
on the pod. And she also helped oversee the female staff. And it was also rumored that she was a witch. She and Elizabeth both had a knack for torture, and it wasn't long before Anna brought out the darker parts of Elizabeth. Shortly after Anna started working there, a few servant girls at the estate went missing. Then several of them apparently died from cholera. Blink, blink.
Ah.
When the families of these girls asked questions, they were quickly shut down and silenced by the immense power and influence of Elizabeth and her family.
Yeah. What happens?
People weren't stupid, though.
Yeah.
They suspected something was going on when more and more girls started dying.
They knew what was happening.
Each time a girl died, priests were called to the castle to do whatever they do when someone dies. Is it last rites?
Yeah, sometimes. I think. Yeah.
Whatever it was, the priests were beginning to piece things together. After a funeral for one of the servants, a priest told Elizabeth, quote, "Your grace should not have acted so because it offends the Lord, and we will be punished if we do not complain to you and criticize your grace. And in order to confirm that my words are true, we need only exhume the body, and you will find that the marks identify the way in which death occurred."
Ah. See, I thought they were in on it.
No, they were not in on it.
Okay.
And Elizabeth was like outraged when this priest said this to her. Just went off. She threatened the priest, saying she had powerful family members who would make him regret that statement. Just wait till
like
my
we've heard
father
that.
hears
Yeah,
about
I
this.
was gonna say, I feel like I've heard that somewhere before.
Luckily, Ferenz was there to smooth things out with that priest and make things a little bit better.
That's good, I guess.
Speaking of Ferenz, he died.
So he convinces this guy to save his wife, and then he just becomes the next servant, huh?
I don't think Elizabeth killed him
Okay.
because in 1604 he was already unwell and he was paralyzed from an unknown disease.
Okay.
And I think he just succumbed to whatever disease he had. We don't know which one. It's not documented, or either that or they just like didn't know what it was.
Okay. That makes sense.
Before he died, it was customary for him to ask someone to watch over his family after he died. he chose to write to one of his closest associates and Elizabeth's cousin. And this guy's name is Georgi Thurzo.
Georgi Thurzo. Oh, wow.
It sounds
Georgi.
like Simlish.
Yeah.
Georgi Thurzo.
Walks up to the stove. Georgi Thurzo. Yeah, I can see that.
It's no mystery why Elizabeth's personality and behavior started to change. She became more stressed with having to run a whole kingdom on her own. And
Yeah,
that's
that would be a little bit stressful by yourself.
as a woman, too. And I'm being hyperbolic. She doesn't have to run the whole kingdom, but she has to run her
Segment.
estate, her whole estate.
Okay, her estate, which is back then was like essentially a county, right?
I mean, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty much. They had multiple castles. They had like 400 servants. They had to take care of the grounds. They had to take care of any like payments. They had to host dinners. I mean, all of the above.
Okay.
Torture went from her hobby to her full-time job.
Oh, awesome.
Torturing young women was all that she could think about. And she had 400 servant girls to choose from. And she had help from 4 of her top-level servants.
Oh, so she just like she was finding like the ones who were like her, and she was like, "Okay, congratulations, you're in my elite circle now."
Right. Well, and if you remember Anna,
Mm-hmm.
she already had a knack for torture, and she kind of
Yeah,
brought that out even more in Elizabeth.
that's right.
And then they found 3 other high-level servants that were willing and able to help.
That's crazy.
So if any servant girl made a mistake, they would be taken to Elizabeth for a beating and then taken to the torture chamber.
Oh,
The methods of torture were pretty vast, and this is pretty rough. So skip ahead if you don't want to hear about it. That's totally fine. Give me like 30 seconds to talk about this.
press that plus 15 2 times, everybody.
Yeah, should be good enough. She would stab them under their fingernails with needles. She would cut, burn, and even bite chunks out of their flesh. Oh, it just, like, even just talking about it makes my body hurt.
Ugh.
She would beat them. She would starve them to death. She would strip them of their clothes and set them out in the freezing weather to freeze to death.
Oh, so she was like truly just horrible. Like she was just any way she could be.
Yes. She would cover them head to toe in honey and then unleash insects onto them.
Oh.
Which is like literally my worst nightmare. I would. Whoa.
Oh, that would be horrible. Just the sound by itself. You know, forget the mass amount of bugs, just the. No, thank you. No, thank you.
It gives you the shivers. It really does.
Yes.
She would cut off body parts like fingers, noses, or lips. She would tear out their organs.
I think I would take the bugs.
She would, what?
I think I would take the bugs now.
She would whip them with stinging nettles. And after all of this, they would still be thrown off a cliff for the wolves to take care of.
Oh.
And then legend says that Elizabeth bathed in their blood to maintain her youth.
I'm bathed in his blood.
I'm bathed in his blood.
I'm bathed in his blood.
Bathed in his blood.
Oh, no way.
Blah.
So, like, she'd just give him to the wolves and then, like, ugh. Oh, so she was, like, crazy.
Yes.
Yeah, in every single way. Like, every time that... What else? What else did she do? Continue.
That's all the stuff that I have written down that she did.
That is crazy stuff.
But
though.
yeah, Ferenz, before he died, taught her all of this.
Oh, so they were literally like Bonnie and Clyde before Bonnie and Clyde.
Yeah,
Like
same
Game
vibe.
of Thrones torture Bonnie and Clyde.
Yeah.
That's crazy. But it was legal back then, so they weren't fugitives. They were just in power, so there were no questions asked.
And they were killing young peasant girls who had no rights.
Mm.
And it was illegal for their families, as peasant families, to bring charges against nobility. That was not allowed.
What a way. What a way to make the world work, huh?
And then she bathes in their blood.
Bathe in your own blood at home.
It's like a bath bomb, but not.
Oh, not a blood bomb.
Oh no.
Reminds me of the Guardians of the Galaxy. That one. The bad guy from that movie. It wasn't Thanos yet, but it was one of his like worker people. And
Oh,
he
I know what you're
does
talking about.
yeah, he does the same thing. Yeah. And that was always like a oh.
It's just
Oh.
evil.
Yeah, it is.
And almost all of the sources that I found said that the bathing in blood thing was probably not true,
Yeah,
but it makes for a really chilling image.
it does. It does. And you can just like see, I can imagine this like woman with like even a little bit of blood in a like pendant around her neck or something, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And she made her servants clean up all the blood off the floor afterwards, like her living servants would have
Oh.
to come in and clean up all the blood.
Oh, awesome. So they
Right?
knew what was going on, and if they didn't just cooperate, they were like, "Oh, we're next."
Right.
Hmm. Nice. Nice.
By 1609, people knew what was going on in that castle. Peasants weren't allowed to bring charges against the nobles, so there was really nothing that they could do about the whole situation.
Yeah.
Some families were literally hiding their daughters away so that they couldn't be lured there for any reason.
That's crazy.
But other families sold their daughters to Elizabeth for a lump sum. Like,
That's a different time, huh? Yeah, they're just like
duh?
"Oh yeah, just give me a few cows and like you can like I know what you're doing over there, but I don't want this one anyways, you know. Just
And
here
it
you
was under
go."
the guise of like, oh, I'm selling you my daughter to come work for you.
Oh,
But
but they
they
knew
knew
what they
what
were
was
doing.
happening.
Yeah. That's messed up.
Bodies were piling up faster than they could be buried. They were running out of room on the grounds for graves. Some of the bodies were buried in such shallow graves that they were dug up by hungry dogs. That's how
Oh.
shallow the graves were.
Oh, wow. So this is crazy. Okay, sorry. Sorry, continue.
No apology necessary. It's
Yeah.
pretty gruesome.
Yeah.
To add to this, Anna Darvulia passed away from a stroke, which, like, bye. But after Anna passed, the Countess, with Elizabeth, the Countess, I'm going to use that interchangeably, the Countess fell into a pit of loneliness. All of her children were grown up and married, and now her BFF Anna was dead.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, this only made her bloodlust escalate.
Oh, I was hoping it was the opposite. But why would it be? You know? Last time that she lost somebody, it went off the deep end, so
She needed a new kind of victim. Peasant girls were cool and all, but she wanted more.
of
So she
course.
opened a school for young noblewomen. Not only would this disguise her actions, but she also got tuition, which would help her financially.
Yeah.
But herein lies the problem. These girls weren't peasants, So when they started disappearing and dying, their families wanted answers and had the influence to figure it out.
Well, yeah.
Elizabeth would come up with wild stories to deter them. Like one time she told them that one of the girl servants killed all the girls around her and then committed suicide.
Oh, and yeah, that's a little bit before cameras.
Yes, I mean, way before cameras. Yes, Logan.
Yeah, yeah, just a little. Huh.
But the families of the girls were not deterred by her stories. They went to the king himself,
Wow.
Matthias II.
The second.
The king was convinced enough to put an investigation in motion. He put his highest ranking representative on the case. And guess who this guy is?
No way, it's Sir Lancelot, is it?
No.
Oh,
No. It's
no.
someone we've already met.
Oh, is it the George
Georgi
Georgi?
Thurzo.
No, it's Georgi.
Yup. The same Georgi Thurzo that Ferenz asked to watch over his family. He began interviewing witnesses, and it became quite clear quite quickly that the Countess was a cruel human being. The servants who had made it out of the castle alive said they constantly heard screams echoing through the castle. They were cleaning up pools of blood off the floor and walls, and they often noticed the ready-made graves in the courtyard.
Oh, that's crazy. So she had some servants digging the graves already, and then she could just. Oh, that's tough. So the ones who were digging the graves were the ones who were definitely getting the axe.
A lot of them got the axe.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that
whatever
much.
else.
Georgi simultaneously felt certain of Elizabeth's guilt while also feeling his own guilt that he promised Ferenz he would look out for her.
Oh. No, Georgi, you can do
No, Georgi.
it.
He wrote to her family to try and find some sort of solution to this. And because of this, an agreement was made between Georgi, the crown, and the Báthory family. Elizabeth would be arrested, but she would never go to trial. She would be taken straight to prison, and nothing about it would tarnish the family's reputation.
Oh, because it was never put on display.
Right. I'd
Huh.
like to point out here that none of her relatives tried to claim that she was innocent.
Do you think they even knew?
I think everybody knew.
Yeah, I bet you everybody knew. Oh,
Just the sheer volume of bodies.
yeah.
Like, those girls were not all dying from cholera. That's not what was going on.
That's not how that works.
So when Georgi accused Elizabeth, they were like, yep, okay. This is the best case scenario. Just don't embarrass our family and we'll be fine. By 1610, Georgi thought he had enough evidence to arrest the Countess, but he wanted to be super sure.
Of course.
So he arranged for the king, Matthias II, and himself to have dinner with her at her castle. Though she was extremely nervous for obvious reasons, the dinner went surprisingly well. Until dessert.
Oh, no.
And I know I'm making a lot of outside references this episode, but this makes me think of the dinner scene of Emperor's New Groove. Where Yzma's like, and then I'll propose a toast, and he'll be dead before dessert. And Kronk says, which is a real shame, because it's going to be delicious.
It's a real shame. It's going to be delicious.
But, I mean, literally, this is what happened. When Georgi and the king were served their dessert, They took one bite and they started feeling sick.
Oh no.
And now I can't picture Elizabeth as anyone but Yzma for the rest of time. But the two men hightailed it out of there because they got the heebie-jeebies and thought she was probably trying to poison them.
Yeah, I would too.
However, they later came back with a gaggle of armed guards, which was probably smart
Yeah.
on their part.
Yeah.
They waited outside the castle gates for a little while, and they saw the Countess and one of her high-level servants come outside the front door and cast a protective spell over the castle. They asked for Elizabeth to be protected from evil, but they also asked for Georgi's death during this spell.
Did they now?
The guards saw a mutilated body of a young girl on the front door, and then they waited until the two women disappeared back into the castle, like waiting for the coast to be clear. Kind of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
And then they made their way inside. They walked right in. Just inside the front doors, there were two more bodies on display. To find the Countess, they said all they had to do was follow the sounds of screaming. It led them right to the torture chamber where Elizabeth and her squad were hard at work. They arrested her right then and there. She immediately tried to blame everything on her servants and claimed her own innocence. But Georgi didn't believe her and threw her into her own dungeon.
No way. That's some good stuff right there.
Kinda badass.
Good Georgi. Good Georgi.
Elizabeth didn't have a trial, as promised, but over 300 people provided testimony against her. Even her murder squad testified, but they incriminated themselves in the process.
I was gonna say.
Dummies.
Yeah.
Like, I'm glad they did it, if this is all true, but
Yeah, but
dummies.
yeah, exactly. Like, think about. I mean, I don't know. I guess maybe less time. I mean, after that many people, I don't think you should, ever get out. But
Yeah. Well, in the end, Elizabeth came to be known as the Blood Countess, and she was accused of murdering over 600 girls.
600 is a lot.
That's a lot.
That's insane.
And in the Guinness World Record website, it says 600 was like the number. Other sources range anywhere from 80 to 650. This was a long time ago. They were
Yeah.
peasant girls. We're not really sure.
It's fair, but still, that's any number over 0, and that's a lot.
Any number over
Isn't it
2,
2? It's 3 or more makes you a serial killer, right?
3 or more
Yeah.
makes you a serial killer.
Oh.
And she was well over 3.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see that.
Her accomplices were put to trial, and all of them were found guilty. 3 of the 4 of them were sentenced to death. Immediately before their execution, 2 of them were put through torture of their own.
Oh.
Their fingers, were ripped off with iron tongs. Then they were executed, and then their bodies were thrown into the fire.
That's crazy. I mean, justice, I guess, eye for an eye back then, so.
The third accomplice was spared because he was younger, so he was only beheaded and burned.
Oh, how kind of them. Yeah. Yeah.
And the last of the accomplices was only given life imprisonment because people said she attempted to help the victims. Like, she would bring them food and water, and somehow that made it better.
Yeah, a torturer at night and a hero during the day, just how kind of her.
Moonlighting as a torturer.
Yeah.
The Bloody Countess was imprisoned in her own dungeon for the remainder of her life.
Oh, that's cool.
And this dungeon is where some of her torturing took place. Like, some of her victims died in that dungeon, which is really ironic.
Yeah, it is.
Her only visitors were Georgi and a priest. Neither of them ever got Elizabeth to realize the severity of her actions. She insisted that she was innocent and that her squad were the real criminals. When they asked her why she didn't order them to stop, she said she was afraid of them. Blink, 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 blink.
Yeah. I was just so afraid that they'd do it to me.
Like, girlie, you could have them killed if you
exactly.
wanted to.
Like, that's
You ain't
crazy.
scared.
Yeah, she was not scared. Scared nothing.
The 50-year-old countess slowly lost her mind, as anyone would, stuck in a dungeon with no sunlight or social interaction. One day, Georgi came to visit her, and she yelled at him. She went off on him. But of course, she had no power in that whole situation. And all he could say was, quote, "You are in the last months of your life. You do not deserve to breathe the air on the earth or see the light of the Lord. You shall disappear from this world and shall never reappear in it again. As the shadows envelop you, may you find the time to repent your bestial life."
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, go off. That was good.
So dramatic back then.
Yeah.
I wish people still talked like this.
Can you imagine if like a cop walked up to you and they were like, "Do you understand why I have pulled you over today?" And you're like,
I
"No,
have pulled
officer,
you
what's
over."
wrong?" And he's like, "Because your speedeth exceedeth the signeth speedeth."
Your speedeth exceedeth. Oh my god.
You know?
Ugh.
You're just like, I can't be mad about the speeding ticket. He was smooth about it, you know?
In August of 1614, at the age of 54, Elizabeth Báthory went to sleep feeling cold and unwell, and she never woke up. Elizabeth was buried in the town, but there was such a public outrage about it that they exhumed her body and moved it to the Báthory family crypt. The spooky part, and this is real spooky, is when that crypt was opened in 1995, her body was not in there.
Mm.
Wom, 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 wom.
That's
Where
weird.
did she go?
Yeah, all those baths in blood.
Bathed in his blood. Yeah.
That's
Telling you,
crazy.
like, very vampire,
Yeah, that is.
this whole thing.
Yeah, that's really weird stuff. Like,
Now, over the years, scholars and historians have questioned whether or not Elizabeth was guilty at all. Other powerful families could have seen her as a threat or a witch and plotted to take her down. Maybe they wanted her land or money. Maybe they saw her as a threat to the entire structure of high society. And she was teaching young women to read, which scandalous.
yeah, that wasn't a thing. Yeah.
And
That's
to be fair,
crazy.
there was a lack of physical evidence, and most of the testimonies were based on hearsay. There's a pretty big chance that peasants were tortured into saying what they said about her.
Yeah.
And if someone wanted a witch hunt, they got one. That was how it was in that time period. Witches everywhere.
Yeah.
Hysteria.
A witch, ban her.
What do you think? Do you think she did it? Or do you think she's Like, this is all just myth and legend.
I think she did it. Yeah. I
Yeah.
think I I think it would be really, really hard to produce all of that kind of like evidence and stuff. I mean, I know it was a long time ago and tales take a pretty crazy turn over time. So, it could have been like 4 servants at the beginning and it slowly turned into 400. And for the story, yeah, I believe it.
Part of me, just like being devil's advocate here, part of me sees that Georgi was asked to watch over their family, like Elizabeth's family, and land and money. And what if, I have nothing to back this up, but what if he, being in charge of the investigation, made sure that she was found guilty, kind of thing, that she was imprisoned? And like, did he get the money? Did he get the land? Did he profit from this? And that's why he made this whole thing up about her?
Well, would it be that or would it
Or
go to like her kids? Like their kids? Because it's still friends or Fran's kids, right? Friends' kids?
friends?
Yeah.
It is his kids. And I don't know. I don't know where the money went. I assume it went to her kids, but
But you never know.
maybe because she was
Disgraced
a woman, it
and
went
a
to a
woman, yeah.
man instead. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, you don't know. That is crazy. But if he was
Regardless,
like the number one investigative knight or whatever at the time, I doubt that he would have needed money, I feel like.
that's also true.
But maybe he wanted it. You never know. People are built different.
People are built different.
You can't think the same way as like a serial killer and stuff like that. So
Regardless, Elizabeth is one of the earliest documented serial killers ever. She's been compared to a vampire countless times, even being referred to as Countess Dracula. It's possible that she was even the inspiration for Bram Stoker's Dracula novel.
I was gonna say that it was very similar.
Right? She and Dracula both looked down upon peasants and kept a storage of women beneath their castles for their blood.
Yes. I
Her
want to
story has
bathe in your
been
blood.
what is it from Hotel Transylvania? Blah blah blah.
Blah blah blah.
Blah blah blah. Her story has been the inspiration for many movies, books, operas, TV shows, video games. Bathing in the blood of young women to maintain her own youth is pretty iconic, and that kind of became her trademark, whether it's fact or fiction.
Yeah. That's
And Logan, I
crazy.
know you like video games, so here are some of the video games that she's metaphorically been in. And I'm about to butcher some of these names, no pun intended. So please forgive me, gamer gods. Carmilla in the Castlevania series is a recurring character that is often portrayed as a seductive, bloodthirsty vampire who preys on young women, much like Elizabeth.
Okay.
In Blood Rain, the main antagonist in the second game is a vampire, and some of his vampire followers are inspired by Elizabeth's legend with blood rituals and themes of immortality. In Resident Evil Village, that's a more recent one.
That was the one that I
One
was
of the
thinking
main
of.
villains is Lady Dimitrescu.
Close enough, yeah.
Anyway, she's partially inspired by Elizabeth Báthory.
Okay.
She's a noblewoman living in a castle who preys on young women. She and her daughters drink blood, and her sadistic nature mirrors the real-life accusations against Báthory. The game's setting and horror elements echo the myths about Elizabeth as well. There's a game called Undead and Undressed, Akiba's Trip, Undead and Undressed, that features a vampire character named Elizabeth Báthory.
Huh.
So pulling straight from
yeah.
the story.
Okay.
And then The Witcher 3, Blood and Wine.
Yep.
While not directly featuring Bathory, the Blood and Wine expansion involves themes of aristocratic vampires, blood rituals, sinister noblewomen,
Yeah.
drawing on her historical legend.
Huh.
So was Elizabeth the most prolific female murderer or just a victim of powerful enemies? Either way, she still holds the Guinness World Record for most prolific female murderer. And I want to know who submitted her for that title.
Yeah, I was gonna say, did she just? Was it Elizabeth? I mean, her body's not there. Did she just like?
That's true.
Did she just what's that show called? In the Shadows, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Spooky.
What if she's just around? He's like the
Can you
really old
imagine?
vampire, like in the attic that finally walks out after he's like, I'm 5 millennia old or whatever, and then he walks into the sun and disintegrates. She like submitted herself to the Guinness World Records of serial killers, and then she just accidentally walked into the light whenever she woke up. She like jumped up in excitement whenever she got it, and vampire gone.
She's just like Googling, like, how do I apply to be the most prolific female murderer?
It's like in her native tongue. They just don't have it anymore. So she's like, gosh, this is impossible to find.
Using Google Translate.
Yeah. That was a quite the crazy story. Thank you for giving me a juicy one. Yeah, that's a lot. Yeah. This was really fun. This was a good time.
And
yeah.
thank you for being here.
Yeah,
thank
of
you for being
course.
the second remote guest I've ever had.
I hope it works out, Yeah, no. This is really cool. So
I'm so glad that you enjoyed it. I really enjoyed having you on.
Well, thanks for having me.
So that's it for this week. I'll see all of you guys listening. I'll see you next week. This week, I challenge you to focus on being grateful. For example, you aren't being tortured by a vampire that's going to bathe in your blood and throw your body to the wolves.
No way you said that.
Hooray!
I'm grateful for that, yes.
And remember, friends don't let friends commit crimes.
Never.
Bye!